Today I'm going to share with you how I use the GMAT Foundations of Math. I think that those people who are still in grade school or high school under the K-12 program should be able to find this book really helpful. I think even in my case, after going through grade school, high school, college, there are so many things here that I think if I knew or I was able to pick up much faster, then I'd be able to do so much better in my classes. Now, this book is freely available from Amazon.com. You can download the ebook version free of charge, and I think that even if you're not gonna take the GMAT or go to an MBA program or something like that, but just because you want to really understand what's happening in the world of mathematics, especially after going through these things and not really understanding too much, except that somehow you were able to get a passing score or you were able to graduate. I think that this is something that everyone should have a basic knowledge of. Right. So the way to do this is, in my case, I really read the whole thing. And then after reading the whole thing, I would do the exercises. Okay, so I'm now in page 511, and it says here that we should avoid the temptation to factor right away and instead rearrange to make the right side 0 first. So what that means is if our equation is z squared plus z minus 8 equals 4, then we need to make the right side 0 first. The way to do that is, of course, to transfer 4 to the other side so that the right side would be 0. But when we say transfer, what we really mean is to subtract 4. That's why we get z squared plus z minus 8 minus 4, which amounts to negative 12, equals 0. Okay? Now, you can factor the left side because we've already made the right side 0. And based on the previous pages, what we get is something like this. Z plus 4, and we have a parentheses like these, multiplied to parentheses z minus 3 parentheses. And we know that it's 4 and negative 3 because we need to get a negative 12. And if we multiply 4 and negative 3, we get negative 12. Also, I think because the coefficient of the middle term is 1 times z, then we also need to make sure that 4 and negative 3, when we add them, should give us 1 as the coefficient. 4 plus negative 3 gives us 1, which is correct. Because 12, we can factor it to 2 and 6, right? But if we do that, the coefficient of the middle term won't be 1. That's why here it's z plus 4, and then we got the parentheses like this, and parentheses again, z minus 3 equals 0. Finally, set each factor equal to 0 and solve for z. Z plus 4 equals 0, or z minus 3 equals 0. Once we do that, we'll get the value z equals negative 4 or z equals 3. Since we were told that z is positive, then z must be 3. We can't get the other possibility, negative 4, at all, because we were told right from the start that this value of z is positive. So it must be 3. It's technically legal to factor a quadratic expression whenever you want to. But if you factor the expression before setting one side equal to 0, your factors don't tell you anything useful. You can't set them individually equal to 0. Again, we need to set the right side to 0. When you solve a quadratic equation, always set one side equal to 0 before you factor. It could be the right side, or it says here the left side is also okay, as long as one side is equal to 0. Now this one table here, I think that if your screen isn't too big, you might not be able to read it very well, but in this case I think it's somehow readable still. It says here, if you want to solve x squared plus x equals negative 18, then you rearrange to make one side 0. Factor the quadratic side, then set the factors equal to 0. Like this, start off first with x squared plus 11x equals negative 18. Then we make the right side 0, that's why we transfer negative 18 to the other side, which gives us x squared plus 11x plus 18 equals 0. The factors are x plus 9 parentheses multiplied by parentheses x plus 2 equals 0. Then, just like what we did a while ago, we equate them to 0. X plus 9 equals 0, or x plus 2 equals 0, giving us x is equal to negative 9, or x is equal to negative 2. Okay? This part, check your skills. This is where we are supposed to apply what we have read and see whether we can understand the topic or not. And what I do is I do them. 7, for instance, x squared plus 2x minus 35 equals 0. And then, once we have a solution or an answer, we check whether we got it right or not. So we press this 7, which links us to the explanation. The answer is 5 or negative 7. And it says here that we find a factor pair that multiplies to 35 and has a difference of 2. So if we look at the equations here, okay, got the 35 at the back here, and we need to find a factor pair. The pair 5 times 7 multiplies 35, that's why we got 5 and 7 here. and the difference between the factors is 2. Okay, if we set this to -5 and this one is to 7, then the difference would give us 2, which is what we're going for as coefficient for the middle term. The 2x term is positive, so the greater of the two numbers, 7, is the positive one in the parentheses, because you could have chosen 7 as the negative and 5 as the positive. If we do that, now we will get -2 instead of 2, right? So that's why we need to make 7 the one that is positive, while 5 is the one that is negative. We need 1 to be negative because if we multiply them, we'll need to get a negative value as well. Okay? Once we've done that, we equate them to 0. X minus 5 equals 0, which is 5. Okay? X plus 7 equals 0, which is x is equal to -7. Next, the number 8 gives us x squared minus 15x is equal to -26. Okay, looking at this, we know that we need to transfer -26 from the right side to the left side so that we'll get a 0 on the right side. The answer is 2 or 13. It says here, set the equation equal to 0, then solve. Okay, so we transferred -26 to the other side, which makes it 26, and then this one is 0. Okay, the factors -2 and -13 multiply to 26 and sum to -15. We need a 26, and what are the factors that could give us 26? And we have to think about the coefficient of the middle term. Should be a negative. Okay, and the way to get a negative in the coefficient is to, of course, have a negative or two negative numbers, because we're adding them together, right? And once we get the numbers, at least once we have an idea what they could be, we try them out. So here it says that it should be -2 and -13, because if we multiply -2 and -13, what we get is 26. Negative times negative gives us positive. And once we add them together, we get -2 plus -13 equals -15. If only one of the values has a negative sign, then we'll get a negative for the 26 here, and the middle one here could be negative or positive, but still the last term, this one here, would give us the the wrong answer. It has to be a positive number, not a negative number. Once we've done this, we get the factors x minus 2 parentheses like this multiplied to parentheses x minus 13 equals 0. We equate them to 0. X minus 2 is equal to 0, or x is equal to 2, and the other possible answer, x minus 13 equals 0, gives us x is equal to 13. Okay? So, I think that I also need to share with you that maybe it's because that some of the books that we get, textbooks, aren't really very conducive to learning in a way, because they give you the questions and even the answers at the back, but they don't explain really how you arrive with the answers. And if you're also like me, especially at the time during college, when I was attempting to figure out how to solve the equations, just following the recommendation of my teachers to do the textbook, do the exercises, but without anyone really explaining the whole thing to me after attempting to answer them, you'll find that it's such a huge time consuming effort. Because if you don't know how to figure out how to solve the equations, it's gonna take you a long time, maybe days. And by that time, the class has moved on to the next topic. And it's a wonder how sometimes your classmates could figure out right away how they could answer the equations there. And I'm thinking that they must have gotten a tutor or someone who would teach them the the way to solve the equations, which I think also would be what will be coming out in the exams, especially because the teacher already told us to practice and do the exercises in the textbook. Okay?